Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our session with Faculty of Arts. I'm so happy to see so many participants joining us today. My name is Tatiana. I will be your host today. I'm a marketing coordinator at TRU World, our international department, as well as alumni of TRU. So the agenda that we have today is to help you answer the questions that you might have about your courses, about schedule, how your class would look like, the delivery method, and other questions that you may have to our faculty, to our panel today. So first, we will have some message from Associate Dean of Faculty of Arts. So Dr. Elizabeth Reimer would like to share a message with you. Sorry, we're just trying to play her video, just a small technical glitch. In the meantime, just wanted to remind you guys that please for now keep yourself muted. We will have a Q&A part where you will be able to ask your questions either through chat, or since the group is rather small, we may even have some students voicing their questions. But so far, Serge, if you would please like to share the message from Associate Dean. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Reimer and I am an Associate Dean in the Faculty of Arts. We are very happy that you can join us today for this session, and we are looking forward to hosting you in the fall. It's going to be an interesting year, and we are right now preparing for the fall for the alternate delivery, and we know that there will be a lot of interesting content for you. We want you to know that the faculty at Thompson Rivers University are very accessible to you and will work with you to make the fall term a great success. We hope that you will let us know if you have any questions. Please know that we will welcome you when you virtually join us in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your message. I would like now to introduce you our panel today. We have Associate Professor of Faculty of Arts, Dr. Mark Wallen, joining on the panel to answer your questions. Mark, if you would like to quickly introduce yourself and maybe share a message to the students before we go into questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Wallen. I'm also Associate Dean, just like Elizabeth Reimer. We share that position, and so she wasn't able to be with you this morning or this evening, as the case may be. And so we wanted to make sure that we both got a chance to communicate with you so that you guys could put a face to our names and feel comfortable to reach out to either of us if you do have any questions. And so I'll look forward to taking your questions in a couple minutes after the more formal part of the presentation happens.
Thank you, Mark. So I would like to invite everyone to please post your questions in a chat box that you see. We will make sure to address them. However, I would like to remind you that please make sure your questions are relevant to faculty to answer. During this town hall, we will not be addressing immigration-related questions or visa-related questions. So feel free to post your questions. We do have a couple of students who've already reached out to us, and we have some commonly asked questions that we would like to start addressing first. And we'll start with a very first question. Okay. So the very first question we have is, Mark, can you please clarify which courses will be delivered virtually, face-to-face, or blended model?
Okay, yeah, this is obviously a very pressing question for a lot of people. In the case of the Faculty of Arts, very few of our classes will be delivered face-to-face. And those are classes that require distinct hands-on experiential components. And so for right now, the only classes you'll find is a handful of classes that are in the visual and performing arts department. So some theater classes and some visual arts classes will be delivered face-to-face. And those are the particular, like I said, hands-on ones that have extensive studio expectations. The only other one that's in that category is the music class, the choir class. The choir classes will be done hybrid, so there will be some face-to-face, but there will be online components as well for the choir class.
Thank you, Mark. We have another question for you that consists of multiple questions, so we may address them either as whole question or break it down into a couple smaller questions. So why should I study virtually? What are the advantages of virtual learning? And what will the online delivery look like? So maybe let's break it down a little bit. So let's first address why should I study virtually and what are the advantages, and then we'll look into how the actual delivery component will look like.
Sure, and I think this is a really important question because there's a lot of confusion out there between distance education and the kind of virtual experience that we're offering students. Quite often, distance education is self-directed education, and that's not what we're doing here with this virtual delivery, this alternative delivery format. By and large, the alternative delivery format that we're putting together as closely as possible mirrors or includes elements that mirror the face-to-face delivery that you all were expecting coming to TRU. So the kinds of things that you'd be expecting from a face-to-face delivery, such as direct engagement with professors, being able to work one-on-one or in groups with students, interactivity, all these things are going to be built into the vast majority of the classes. Very few classes are going to be, no classes that I've seen so far are what we would consider that kind of distance model, where you just work at your own pace and read things and submit things, and that's your only way of interacting with your professor. You will be engaging with your professors and your fellow students all the time. And so what many faculty are doing is they're building systems where you can engage as much as you want. And so you won't be penalized if you can't engage synchronously or getting up in the middle of the night if you're around the world from TRU. You won't have to do that, but if you want to, you can. And so you can engage as much or as little as you want based on what your needs are and what your interests are to pull out of that particular class. And so why should you do it? You should do it because A, it's the closest thing you're going to get to what you were expecting. And B, our professors are fantastic. Our professors are amazing. They're engaged. They are the hidden gem of TRU, and students are constantly talking about how their relationships with their professors change their lives, or transformative experiences. And those are exactly the kinds of experiences that we're working to facilitate for you through this virtual experience. So while you're not going to be in the same physical space with those instructors, you will have relationships with those instructors, and you will have relationships with students and other students in your class. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think we've addressed the question as a whole question. So let's move into another question that we've have students submit to us. Serge, if you don't mind changing slide, thank you. Mark, if you can address, what is the difference between synchronized and asynchronized delivery? What if student misses the live portion of a class?
Right. So this is a really big question. Synchronous delivery simply means that in the same way that if you were we were not doing virtual course delivery. You would be expected to show up at class at a particular time in a particular place. That's the kind of normal university experience that people kind of associate with going to university. That's what synchronized delivery mirrors. So if you go on, you look at your classes, and you see that there are, when you go on to register, you'll see that every course has a time frame that will be attached to it. And so depending on the instructor and the way the instructor has structured the class, you could be asked to show up at a particular time to have those classes delivered to you. That's what synchronous delivery is. Asynchronous delivery suggests that it's a range of actual experiences, all the way from there is absolutely no expectation at all for you to engage synchronously or in the same time zone as the rest of the class, to there may be some opportunities for you to do so, but there won't be any marks attached to those. So that's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Asynchronous is a flexible kind of mode of engagement that allows you to have multiple paths through a course. Whereas synchronous is the traditional kind of classroom experience. And so even with the synchronous delivery, they're, depending on the instructors, they may record those synchronous experiences. Based on what I've seen, there are very few instructors that are moving to the direction for a fully synchronized class. Most of the classes that I've seen, and I've been talking to instructors about this issue extensively over the last few weeks, most of the instructors I've been talking to are saying that they're moving to a flexible model. So in other words, they want to provide you with opportunities to engage with them in the class, if that's what you're interested in, or if that facilitates your learning. But they also don't want you to be required to get up at 3 in the morning to engage with classroom experiences.
And that is nice, because 3 a.m. is not the proper time to study.
No.
Thank you. Can we please move to the next question from submitted? Sergi, if we could please move to the next question.
Sorry, I had a little bit of an issue here. There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. How do I register for my courses, and what is the course schedule like? If you are able to address that, let's try to cover the question as much as we can.
Yeah, I can cover that a little bit. What you register for your courses the way you normally, as far as I know, the way you normally would. You'd be engaging with your TRU World advisors, and they would be building helping you build your schedule, and you would be registering through them to put your classes together. And your course schedule is going to look however works best for you and your schedule. Because we've left in times for at least time codes, even though classes may not be delivered synchronously, we've left in time codes to ensure that if you are taking classes that do involve some kind of engagement, direct engagement with your class, that there won't be time conflicts. So that's one of the advantages of the way that we've structured the registration system. So as far as I know, and you may be able to tell me otherwise, you'd be registering for courses exactly the same way you would if you were here in Kamloops, which is directly through your TRU World academic advisors.
And I will help to address the first part of the question a little bit for new students who are so far unfamiliar with the registration process. the way it usually works is once we know your visa confirmation, our academic advisors team will start planning your classes. So they will be reaching out to you with suggested classes to register for your first semester. So you will have a dialogue to make sure that these are the classes that you're interested in. These are the classes that you agree to take. So make sure that you are checking your MyTRU email account. So every student has their own MyTRU access, right, to your MyTRU portal, including MyTRU email account. You can easily forward emails from your MyTRU account to your personal email, just to make sure that you always stay on top of all the resources that we share with you guys. But once you have your visa, please reach out to us to let us know that it is in place, and our academic advisors will start planning your classes. Okay, so we have another question. Suraj, if we can please move to the next slide. What kind of support is the faculty offering for students studying virtually? And I think this will be a very important in terms of understanding the comfort that we provide to students, considering that studies will not be able to happen face-to-face.
Right. And so we're ensuring that just as if you were on campus, we're making sure that all faculty members have accessible office hours, that students can engage with them directly. And so many of the faculty members are, there's a function on our there's an application on our learning software called Moodle, and it's called the Big Blue Button. And the Big Blue Button allows for you to drop in and talk to your instructor during their office hours and get one-on-one help if that's what you're looking for, as well as you'll be able to access all the kinds of academic resources that you would normally have through if you were on campus, such as the Writing Center, the Math Center. All these things are going to be available to you. And so we're working really, really hard to make sure that all of you have the same kinds of experiences that you would if you were on campus with us. Just you just won't be in the same room with us. We'll still be here, and we'll be engaging directly with you.
And also just to add that a lot of other services on campus will still be open, will still be operating, like library that we moved virtually. However, staff is still available for you to access them with any questions. They still will be delivering some workshops around academic success and things like that. So there's still going to be lots of supports available for you on campus, not only through your faculty.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could just add, one of the things, if there's a blessing in all of this, it's really forced a lot of the organizations on campus to really up our game in terms of virtual engagement and connecting with students. And so, for example, the level of tutorials and the level of information that you can now access and the level of resources you can now access is really amazing. So, I mean, everything, as Tatiana was saying, from the library to the counseling services, everything is right there for you.
Thank you. Another question that we have is, how would I be evaluated? How do I take the midterm and final exams?
Well, again, evaluation is going to change depending on the nature of the class. So, you know, just as usual, you know, some classes are going to have essays, some classes are going to have multiple choice exams. By and large, because of the nature of how we're experiencing this global pandemic, we don't think that we're going to have final exams the way we conventionally think of final exams. So all the exams will be built into the regular course schedule time. So there won't be a great big final exam where you have to show up for 3 hours and that type of thing. So whatever the examinations are, they'll be built into the courses themselves.
Okay, Thank you. We'll move into the last question from pre-submitted, and then we're going to start addressing live Q&A with our students today. So the question is, why should I plan to enroll in fall 2020 instead of winter 2021? Because some students may still be thinking about deferring their studies to January.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a personal choice, but it's certainly if you're waiting for I would say that we don't know what's going to happen in the winter. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but we do know what's happening in the fall. And we're all prepping really hard for the fall. And so you may, in your mind, you may say, oh, I'm going to, go in winter when I can go there physically. And then you might be disappointed when we're going to be doing exactly the same thing. We don't know yet what's going to happen, but we are excited to have you here. We're ready to bring you on for the fall, and I think our level of engagement and excitement will be exactly the same in the fall as it would be in the winter.
Thank you. It is definitely a new challenge for every one of us, not just the university, but also the students. However, yes, we are planning for fall as much as we can to keep it as engaging as possible and still provide the best experience that you would have here on campus with us. So now we're going to move to questions submitted by students already. For the rest, I still want to remind you that please feel free to submit your questions through the chat that we have here. The first question that we have, and I think I might be able to address that better, is how many alternative delivery classes can an international student take? Is it possible to take my last 2 years completely online? So if you don't mind, Mark, I'll start addressing that by simply saying, we need to understand students' goal, because we do know that a lot of students, they come with the hope that they will be applying for postgraduate work permit upon completion of their studies. And we have been addressing that from previous town halls as well, that right now IRCC allows 50% of online completion of your program of studies. And I see that Ziping joined us as well, so he might be able to explain a little bit more on that part as well. Ziping is not a new phase, so Ziping, if you would like to add something to that question, please do.
Yes, thank you for that. And I do want to say hi to all the students from the Faculty of Arts. It's so great to see you, and I see a great amount of diversity into this group. And thank you for Mark to addressing the student. In terms of alternative delivery study online, the student asked whether they could finish the last 2 years completely online. It's possible. We do want it to connect you with one of our immigration advisors. You can discuss what the pros and cons for you to do that. And definitely we would, this is not a good, easy time for every one of us. We're trying to provide a virtual learning solution, but it will be a real studying experience, but we also wanted to invite everyone to be on campus, to socialize with other students, to experience the beautiful nature, and to connect with your professor in person. So we do hope once this back to normal, let's come together, let's study together on the beautiful campus. You will really appreciate that part of the experience too. Yeah. Thanks.
And also, please make sure that you keep an eye on all the IRCC updates, because that rule that 50% of online studies is counted towards your postgrad work permit may change as soon as we're out of this pandemic. So please make sure that you always check their website for any updates. And I think we're going to move to the next question that we have. Before online classes, are there any trial for online classes? I think I will address that question. What we are doing within International Department is we're designing few seminars for students to get familiar with online process. Those seminars will be offered to you again in different time zones to make sure that everyone can attend them. There'll be 3 sessions in the month of July and the month of August. They are completely free to attend to students who already have their seats confirmed. Your final letter of acceptance has been issued. So you will have a chance to give it a try, to understand how the technology is going to work behind it, and then make a better decision for yourself. So stay tuned for communication from our international department with more information on the dates that seminars will be offered to you on.
I
Another
want to
question.
ask this
Yes.
question for Mark as well. Mark, do you know if there are any pre-recorded some lecture clips that we might have the liberty to download and share with some of the students from Faculty of Arts, if that's possible, or you can guide us to the TRU YouTube Google channel, whether there are any video resources there.
We have, because the faculty members are right now working on the classes, there are very few of those types of resources. There are some podcasts that we can send your way that faculty members have done that have been integrated in their classes. For example, even myself, I teach, even though I'm associate dean, I still teach classes. And for years and years, I've been integrating podcasts into my classes. And so those resources, we can connect you up with those. And so, yeah, by
If
and
you
large,
share a couple, that would be great. Then we'll be sharing with students. And meanwhile, I do suggest students to go to the TRU website, tru.ca/videos. There are a series of different videos about TRUs and programs and some faculties talks. Please feel free to explore that as well.
And also I want to invite students to take a look at our social media. We have current students doing Instagram takeovers. A lot of them, they do share experience of studying online during summer semester. So please make sure that you familiarize yourself with that as well. Ziping, I think this question will be better asked for you. What are the chances that TRU goes back to face-to-face delivery mostly this winter semester?
Yes. That's a really good question, and I think everybody's are considering that as well. As Mark also mentioned, we are monitoring the COVID evolving situations, and we're also working with the government, the health officials to determine. I think safety is very important. If the schools open for students, we want to make sure that we know that it will be safe to do so. And that we don't have an answer yet. It's yet to tell. And I also saw a question later on, student asking us to enlighten them whether they should study in September or in winter. I wouldn't know if I'm enlightening you, but I want to share some of my thoughts, and maybe Mark or Tatiana will share their thoughts later. This is a pandemic that nobody prepared for it, and we're in the middle of making changes to adapt the situation. It will be, I think everyone on the earth, nobody experienced a pandemic like this. So we're all in this together, and it's the same. But what I wanted to encourage you is, I know you're a very courageous group of people, because you decided to leave your comfortable home, your own familiar culture, and come to a different country to study a new journey. And I want you to keep that spirit and use this opportunity to say, that's be part of it. Even though it's the challenging time, but that's be part of this. So later on, we all have a little bit life story to share. Remember that time when the pandemic happened and I started virtual learning, how's that experience gonna be like? You may not want to miss that in a life experience point of view. So I do suggest, because you're all very young and at the most prime time of your time, you probably don't want it to wait for a year to, not to begin your plan just because, the pandemic somehow stopped you. So I do suggest everyone's participation. I know it won't be easy, and for all of us, it wasn't easy either. We know normally we could go meet you in person. We can sit down with you, have a cup of tea, and we can meet in real person. But now we have to meet you virtually. So it takes a little bit a practice to get used to this environment. But guess what? I'm pretty sure after a few after the summer trial training program, you'll get familiar with this. This is a new normal. And the reason you want to study abroad is because you want to be having the international experience in the future. And you know what, while the technology enables us, you will be able to connect with someone internationally very easily through a platform like this. So we need to be prepared for that. If you're really aiming on future communication through social aspects, through business aspect, through governmental project, we all need to be ready to be able to present ourselves to or get information through this virtual environment. So this is a perfect time. Why not give it a try? So I do suggest everyone that if you're ready, don't let COVID delay you. It's if you're ready, if it's somehow you cannot be ready, yes, that's different. But if you're ready, you get everything in place, that started the journey. It won't be the best, but it'll be very unique. It will be an unforgettable experience, and that's be part of it.
Take this as an opportunity to learn new skills that you can add onto your resume, onto your LinkedIn profile, because trust me, a lot of companies out there will also be looking for those skills, the ability to learn independently, ability to work independently. So don't see it as a challenge, see that as an opportunity.
Exactly. What about Mark? Any comments from Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, just to reiterate a little bit, many of our faculty are feeling exactly the way you are. None of our faculty members wanted to be in this position. They all want to be in the classroom teaching you. And so they're experiencing many of the anxieties that you're feeling. And this is going to make them far more sensitive to what you're experiencing than they would otherwise. So I think the idea of delaying and taking the risk that it's going to be different, I don't necessarily see that that's going to pay off for you. And for all the reasons we've talked about, I think, and when you add to it the fact that you're getting credit towards your permanent your work visa, by learning at a distance, it seems like a really good deal to be working like this. So
thank you.
Mark, I have another question for you, if you could address. In which year or semester do students decide the particular field of psychology, like criminal or clinical psychology, etc.?
Well, we like to encourage students early as possible to start declaring their majors. So if you're interested in psychology, you can show up and declare your major on day one. The department itself, in your first couple of years, is going to try and give you a broad exposure to all the different aspects of psychology. And so then as you're moving through, you can work with particular professors. If you're doing, if you're in the honors program, you can work on your thesis where you work one-on-one with a professor. So there's all sorts of really exciting opportunities, but that kind of granular detail within a major, you don't have to worry about that for quite a while. You're going to be encouraged to be looking around, within the program and even outside the program. That's kind of the exciting aspect of the liberal arts part of this. You're going to be taking classes not just in psychology. You're going to be taking classes in sociology. You're going to be taking classes in philosophy and communication. You're going to be taking classes all over the place. So if you want to declare your major right away, absolutely do so. But you won't have to decide, the details within that major now.
Okay, thank you. We have one raised question from the audience. So we have a raised hand here. If you could please unmute yourself, and I'm sorry if I'm misspelling your name wrong, but it's Lixiowen. Please unmute yourself to ask a question, because we see that you've raised a hand here. Unless it was by mistake, do let us know. Okay. So might have been by mistake, but you also guys have an option to raise your hand if you want to ask your question using the microphone. Otherwise, we're going to continue with the chat questions that we have here. And the next question we have here in chat is for you, Mark. Some courses might demand that we employ certain books that might only be available in the campus library. Is that correct? And if it happens, how would those of us who study online deal with it?
The instructors are working really hard to ensure that you will have access to whatever texts you need. We've been telling the faculty members that if they're going to assign paid textbooks you have to pay for, that those textbooks should be available in digital formats. And additionally, there's a large move amongst faculty members to move to zero cost texts in their classrooms. So many of us, myself included, have moved away from assigning textbooks of any kind. We embed readings into the Moodle application. So I think you'll find more and more classes will be moving that direction, and the classes that still use textbooks, there'll be digital access to them.
Okay. Next question we have is, how will online tests and exams be different from usual? And I know that we've touched upon it a little bit during our pre-submitted questions, but maybe we can expand on that here.
Sure. For example, again, the Moodle learning application has the opportunity for students to take tests within that structure, and so that's again for students in courses where that kind of multiple choice testing takes place. That's where the majority of your testing will happen. My guess would be. Otherwise, it'll be usual essay submission. So again, the learning application that does allow students to both take tests and submit essays through that platform.
Okay, we have a raised hand from Sadullah Sabir, so please unmute yourself and feel free to ask your question.
Hey there, how are you guys doing?
Doing good, thank you. It's great to hear your voice.
I just had a curious question. So let's just play around with the idea. Like, let's say that the semester has started, and then turns out that the flights are open, and then you want the students to start arriving at campus. Then normally, how will you be able to facilitate that?
Okay, so from my understanding, if we decide a mid of semester, right, the classes are switching face to face and we expect students to arrive, how would we facilitate that?
I can take that one. That will be very exciting. We would like to see that. So please, for students, when after you start a course, if the travel restrictions lifted, please go over what the condition is, who's allowed to be in Canada, who's not. And there might be a portion that the school, TRU, will have to provide you a quarantine plan. We'll provide all the documents that you needed to facilitate your travel, so you can show to the airline staff, you can show it to the Canadian border officers, and then they will get you in. So please, TRU don't make that decision. It's the Canadian government. They will decide whether the travel restriction will be lifted and what are the conditions and requirements associated to that. And TRU will facilitate our students to accomplish that, to help you safely transit to Canada. For the isolation period of the time, TRU will coordinate with the students. Unfortunately, we will guide you to where you have to stay for that period of time and what do you have to do. We will also assist students to make sure that you have food to eat. And if anything medical treatment is needed, we'll assist you with the medical treatment as well. So we will help you with that. We're waiting for government's guidelines, and then our practice will follow that.
Mark, we have a question from Oscar for you. I'm registered in Geography and Environmental Studies program. Can we expect to have outdoors hands-on experiential learning eventually?
Well, when we all come back, you're definitely going to have that kind of stuff. But many classes will have opportunities for you to explore your own space. So for example, I mean, I'm just using my class. I'm a communication professor. So in my classes, I will still have students going out in their areas safely and observing and noting and doing research in their own spaces. So just because we're not in the same in the same physical space doesn't mean you can't be having experiential education opportunities. And so I'm sure the geography program is working on those things as well. I know for a fact that several of the geography classes with labs, they're moving the labs into a digital environment. And so you'll still have those kinds of experiential opportunities, the labs, and engaging with the world, but it won't be here in Kamloops. It will be in your space.
Okay, thank you. The next question is on grading. Will the grading be the same as face-to-face, for example, attendance, class participation, and so on?
Well, again, because we're talking about a modified engagement with you, we're going to have to modify how we grade you. So again, very few of the classes will be synchronous, and you'll know the very first day. The instructor will tell you this is going to be a synchronous course, and I will be marking you on attendance, right? And so you'll know right away whether that's going to be a part of the class. And then you can make decisions on moving out of that class into a different one if that's not what you're looking for. So attendance will be determined through different ways, through let's say you're engaged in a class that has a discussion forum. I think you're going to see a lot of discussion forums. And many of us have put in discussion forum participation marks. Instead of you showing up in class and participating, we'll expect you to post in the discussion board or submit reflection journals, those types of things that would take the place otherwise of our expectations that you show up in class.
Okay, thank you. The next question is mainly around classes that students have never taken before. So if students has never taken, for example, psychology, mathematics, biology, would that create sort of like a challenge and issues for students taking them the first time through distance learning?
Well, again, we want to make sure that we differentiate between distance learning and the modified learning. So absolutely, there are many students who feel in distance learning a challenge, but that's mostly because in distance learning, you receive a textbook and then you hand in assignments. That's not the experience you're going to be having with us. And so is engaging with particular subjects for the first time challenging? Absolutely, but that's why you're coming to university. You want to be challenged, you want to be engaged, and that's why we're working really hard to make sure that you have all the resources you need, direct contact with your instructor, working connected with peers, all these things that you wouldn't get through a normal distance education experience. And so that's one of those are the things that we're putting into place to make sure that you feel supported as you engage with new subjects in this new environment.
Okay, I see that Sabdullah Sabir has raised his hand, or her hand, I apologize. Please feel free to address your question. Unmute your mic. Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, hi, this is Tahira. I'm Sadullah's mother. I just want to know the students with the special needs, at what stage would be determined that what type of a support will be available for them? I know we have some information from the website and the other sources that you have, and how will for them?
Sorry, we've lost you midway, so if you don't mind to repeat your second question.
Yeah, at what stage we would be able to know what type of support will be available? Some information we know from the website, which is journal, but I'm more interested in the customized support according to.
If I can answer that.
Please, thank you, Ziping.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch your name. This is
Tahira.
yeah, and thank you for that question, and thank you for sending your child to study at TRU. You're asking a question that involves the students' personal information. So what we would like to, I want to assure you that TRU does provide support to students with special needs. So, but we need to discuss that privately with you, and we need to know what actual services or support that student need, and then we can let you know how we can provide that. So if you don't mind to write an email to welcome@TRU, and listed the requirements, then also list the student name and student number, we can respond to you that way. We do have lots of good support to students with special needs and disabilities.
Thank you very much. I wanted to know at what stage I can do that, before accepting the offer letter or after that?
We can discuss now, so you know if we can provide the service you needed, then you make a commitment. Other than that, if we cannot provide the service you needed, then you don't have to commit. So you can communicate with us now. And if you have any supporting documents, we would like to see that as well. But do understand that involves multiple departments. So an answer, we'll try to get the answer as quick as possible, but that may take a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, next question we have is, what if students want exception in their courses? Will it still be considered or no exceptions given? And I would like to ask a person who submitted the question, if you could please elaborate on what do you mean by exceptions? But maybe meantime, we could address some transfer credit as maybe waiving the course exception. Okay, so let me reword it again. So if student wants to have some classes transferred, right? Have those classes waived from the curriculum that they need to study, are there still going to be some course waiving options available for students, course transfer options available for students, or no?
Oh yeah, I mean, the transfer credit system works exactly the same way as it always has, and the waiving of classes is up to the particular programs involved. So if we were talking to one of the students earlier who's already accepted the geography program, it's up to the geography program to decide what courses they're going to waive or not. Same thing if you've got a course that you want to count towards your academic writing credit, your English academic writing credit, it's up to the English department to count that or not. So yeah, so the transfer credit system will work, but the exceptions are granted by the departments that the courses belong to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we have question on fine arts.
Sure.
Visual arts. So how will students within visual arts program be affected in terms of supply, specifically art supplies and materials? So students, imagine that some of them are only available on campus.
Right. Well, I mean, there are many visual arts classes that will be delivered through alternative delivery. Some of them will not. So obviously, the ones that are going to be offered face-to-face, unless you're here, you're not going to be able to take those. But the ones that are delivered through alternative delivery will have mechanisms built into them and will have an understanding of these issues built into the courses. So they're not going to leave you stranded. So for example, it's not in the fine arts program, but I know in the communication program, we have a digital photography class. And normally the expectation for that digital photography class is that students use the equipment that the department provides. Obviously, that's not possible in this context. So I know that the instructor is going to be allowing students to take photographs with their cameras and submitting them that way. So these are the kinds of accommodations and changes that you can expect. as you come into these classes. We recognize that you're not going to have everyone's working with a modified skill set. Everyone's working with a modified toolkit. And so we're going to make sure that no one's left high and dry.
Okay. Question on selecting majors. So when student is registered into their courses, when will they have to choose what major from the Faculty of Art they would like to go with? So maybe, yep, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, like I said, we love when students declare their majors early. And that's because we want you to feel like you have a home. That doesn't mean we make you declare majors. You declare major when you find something that you get really excited about. That would be my advice to you. When you take a course and it clicks with you, it connects with the way you think, you get really excited about how the course is put together, the professors, you're gonna know when you may know now. And if you know now, then show up and say, I want to be part of this group. But don't feel like we're pressuring you. No one is going to breathe down your neck. They may ask the question, have you considered declaring a major? But that doesn't mean you have to.
Okay, and again, to address general questions about course selection, about selecting your majors, your minors, just want to remind that we have a team of academic advisors in place. They are the ones who will be working with you closely to make sure that you are selecting proper classes for your major, deciding on the major. We'll give you those options. So please make sure that you keep checking your MyTRU email account for the message from our academic advising team. You can also start reaching out to them as well if you want to identify your specific major already. So please feel free to do that as well. And I think we're going to move into some final questions. And for that, I will ask you, Ziping, if you could maybe reinstate some important deadlines again.
Yeah, for sure. I see a few questions as I want to address it here too. The student asking about when is the deadline for deferral. Everybody's monitoring the situation. We wanted you to as well. So you may not know what's gonna happen in fall, whether you'll get visa on time or not. And once you deferred, maybe next day, the visa office will be open. So it's all lots of moving parts. So what we committed to our students, we will make this as flexible as possible. So for students who receive their study permit, they can enroll in the online learning courses. That would be, even if you received your studies permit early September, we should be able to accommodate as well. Too much later than that, if, for example, you receive your study permit later September, it might not be good for you to start in fall, because most of the course has being progressed, it might be too late for you to catch up. And for a student who wants to defer, you don't have to decide now. If you probably August, you'll have a better idea. So at that time you can request, or you can even request in September for deferrals if you needed to defer to winter. So no hurry to defer now. Let's see what the fall happens. And also for some students, because the banking institutions closed, you may not be able to pay your tuition fees yet. We also extended that to July the 15th for you to finish it. But later than that, our concern will be you won't have enough time to apply for a visa. But work with us and we'll work with you. Many of the deadlines, if it's delay caused by COVID-19, we'll see what kind of accommodation we can make to make your process more smooth. So those things we can help. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a few other deadlines that you would like to reinstate as well.
The payment, the study permit, the registration will come probably in July and August. And I do suggest students, if you're ready, do get your study permit application going. Once your study permit application is submitted, we can plan with the faculty to plan your courses. Without a confirmation of visa submission, we won't be able to register your courses until you do so.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation, for all your questions, and I would like to thank Mark as well for really taking time to address everything in detail. And Ziping, thank you so much for joining us to address some important deadlines, visa questions, and so on. Well, good luck with your studies virtually. I do hope that you will be able, with our support, with our seminars, right, with other information that we will be sharing with you, you will be able to make the right decision for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Relax, take a breather, get it together, calm down, chill out. Easy to say, difficult to do, especially in the heat of the moment. My name is Pia Pennekamp, and I'm a research assistant on the multidisciplinary SSHRC-funded project Feel Good Now or Later, Preferences for Immediate or Delayed Rewards Underlying Emotion Regulation Tendencies. Emotion regulation is fundamental to human performance, health, and well-being. How you react and rein in your emotions says a lot about you and about your mental health. When you're angry, sad, or frustrated, do you buy a new pair of shoes or pour a glass of wine? Do you phone a friend and vent, or do you lace up your sneakers and go for a run to clear your head? Do you pause for a moment and say to yourself, well, it could have been worse, or begin to shift your perspective? Emotion regulation has long been studied inside a lab. The difficulty with studying our responses to emotional situations this way is obvious. Study participants are often reflecting on events that have taken place in the past, and scenarios presented in a lab might not be as stressful as those that we're confronted with on a daily basis. Led by Thompson Rivers University psychology professor Dr. Catherine Ortner, and with the assistance of computer scientist Dr. Haytham El Maligi, our team has developed an app designed to record immediate responses to emotionally charged negative events in everyday life. The study has followed more than 100 people, aged 18 to 55, who documented these emotional moments and their reactions to them over a 7-day period. As part of the SSHRC-funded research, we have also traced people's emotional responses in a daily diary study. The goal with this research is to increase our understanding of why people react in different ways during emotionally challenging situations, and whether by coming to understand their reactions, they can begin to change the way they respond. Results of the study will be of value to people who want to improve how they respond to emotional events, to counselors and clinical psychologists who will be able to work with their clients to gain a greater understanding of their behaviors and to develop healthy regulation tactics. We're also beginning to see how personal beliefs about emotion regulation predict the strategies that you use in a stressful situation. Do you believe that you can change the way you feel, or do you believe that your emotions are out of your control? Our daily diary study showed that people who believe they have control over their emotions are more likely to use healthy emotion regulation strategies, especially as events become increasingly important. Learning how to regulate emotions in adaptive ways has the potential to help individuals achieve optimal functioning in all aspects of their lives. Participating in the Emotion App study has deepened my passion for research in the field of psychology. This project has encouraged me to continue my education in the area of experimental psychology and has truly enriched my university experience. My name is Pia Pennekamp, and that is my TRU research story.